Cool. It's good. So just thank you. And yeah, the conversation that we're engaging in tonight is part of an ongoing set of dialogues that we've been having as the Chester Gifted program, the sort of sound system that we have. Myself, me, as well as Rebel Foster, who holds down the state. We have this sound system. And what we looking at is the role of organizing communities. As I like to say it, sound organizing and organizing sound. Right? And you think about sound in multiple things, right? Like sound doctrine, right? Like in a way that sound as in complete. Right? How do we organize ourselves through sound? And that's really what the discussion is about tonight. This project features multiple sort of like threads, and we're in the process of figuring out how all these different things relate. So we'll be coming from multiple different standpoints, but find ways that we all can connect. Because we know, and Paul Robeson knew too, that music is a universal language. There's something in there that speaks to all of us. How can we use that as a way to organize our community? And that's what tonight is really about, the conversation about. So, I guess I should go to the archive and should introduce myself. I'm Chris Rogers, or Christopher Rogers, PhD. And I'm very happy to be one of the members of the Just Gifted program and helping with this project and with the needs and the condition of being near exhibition that is coming at the Institute of Contemporary Art. I'm going to silence myself because I have many other wonderful people with us being able to introduce themselves into the space. There's some time things that I'm monitoring, but I want folks to take the right time that they need to introduce and ground themselves and be comfortable. So I'm going to pass the mic. We're going to start with DJ Nine Speed, and we're going to go to Juneteenth, and then we're going to bring in Hong Kai, and then we'll have an opportunity to introduce ourselves into the work. And then we'll figure out where we are in time and organize ourselves. So the mic is going to do what the mic's going to do. Well, we are here. Right? And we're going to make it work. So, appreciate y'all, and I'm going to go ahead and pass the mic. DJ Nine Speed, what's up?
Just introducing myself, right? All right, let's make sure it's not my part to speak. I'm DJ Najee, Najee Burrell, or Nate Burrell, depending on who you ask. I'm very new, Chester resident, lifelong, and pleasure to be in the room with you all this evening.
Hi, my name's Green King. It just sounds like the national holiday Green King without any H. So, I spent 8 hours in transit today, coming from upstate New York. I think it's absolutely worth it. You're very welcome in Casper. So, I currently teach at SUNY Binghamton, and I'm interested in questions about sound, and especially interested in the idea of acoustic intimacy, how sound is able to bring places and communities from like seemingly totally unrelated places and areas. So look forward to our conversations with everyone today.
And certainly, you know, we have our collaborator who is on a 12-hour time difference in Taiwan right now. Hong Kai, you there? I know we got some technical words, but Hong Kai, you there?
Yes.
Great. So we want to get you up on the screen, but we want you to take some time to introduce yourself into the room.
Chris, I cannot hear you very clearly.
Oh, is it like a power thing? Are you hearing me now?
Huh? Sorry.
Okay. Maybe we can, we're going to ask you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your history as an artist and what animates you.
And how long do I have?
About 8 minutes. Take some time.
Okay, so I'm gonna speak real quick. But in the meantime, can I see you rather than my face on my video on my screen?
Yeah, we want that up there. There you go.
We can't do it both. Like, you can't see her and she see you. She was part of the stream. She's asking if she can see you. Tell her
Okay.
she's gotta. I can put her so y'all can see her, or
Right, so what I'm learning on, guys, is our current setup will allow for both us to see you and for you to see us at the same time. So in this little cross the world situation that we're trying to figure out right now, we might just invite you to share and.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Okay.
So should I start now?
Yes.
Okay. Hi everybody. My name is Kai Wang. I'm an artist currently based in Taipei. Before I moved back to Taipei from Vienna several years ago, I had lived in New York City for 13 years. As an artist, my work has brought me to many places, such as Philadelphia, Tokyo, Yogyakarta, Indonesia, Melbourne, Amman in Jordan, Palestine, Jeju Island in South Korea, to name a few. Although I'm speaking and listening from afar, I would like to think together with you what the condition of being near could mean in times of polycrisis. So, as an artist, my practice has been long concerned with the ethics and the politics of listening, particularly the questions of listening as a stranger. I use the term stranger because at many levels I am a stranger to most of my collaborators and vice versa. Or to be more precise, I consider myself as a contiguous stranger. That is, a stranger who is being in actual contact, touching along a boundary or at a point, according to the dictionary. That being in contact and touching along suggests a mode of ever connecting, spatially and temporally, and of navigating the proximity and the distance. So here are some questions that have been guiding my thinking and the practice. How do I find ways to attune to a place which I don't know and which doesn't know me either? In the practice of listening, there is often a goal-oriented teleology, i.e. to pursue accessible and legible information for the ears. Can I resist that and reach toward other modes of relating and listening? How do I navigate my positionality in relation to other modes of knowing and maybe even not knowing? This question and more walked me through many different places and taught me how to listen. As you might be aware, we are gathering here and now for a collaborative project between Chester Gifted Program, J.T. Huang, and myself, as part of the Condition of Being Near exhibition at ICA Philadelphia in September 2026. It's a project about entanglement across borders in forms which we are hoping to touch upon in today's conversation. Where we live, what we hear, what we breathe in and out, what contaminates, how we carry through every day, what interconnects us, and most of all, what might resonate with one another. Today, I would like to briefly talk about a coastal area in central southern Taiwan. This area comprises Mailiao Township and Taixi Township in Yunlin County, which is my home county. and Taisi village in Zhanghua County. Now you can see the map. They are all adjacent to one another across the seas from a petrochemical complex called Formosa Plastic Mailiao Complex. My junior high school mate Lynn and her family escaped from their ancestral town, Taisi Township, years ago because they were among the environmental refugees inflicted by this large petrochemical complex, also known as the 6 naphtha crackers. Whenever asked as to why they left their hometown, they always replied, people are dying, and we don't want to get cancer. In the photojournalism book, South Wayne, that documents the life in a cancer-stricken Taisi village across the river from petrochemical complex, a passage reads as such. For generations, a community at the mouth of Taiwan's Mother River lived a quiet rhythm of farming and fishing. Their ancestors once said, "Here, with fields to till and seeds to harvest, no one ever needs to fear hunger." But more than 10 years ago, when the world's largest petrochemical complex rose to the south of their village, everything changed. Their watermelon flowers, but no longer bore fruit. The sea, once abundant, grew barren, and even their own bodies, like the soil and the ocean around them, began to wither, slowly drained of life. Do you know Taiwan is the world's 9th largest petrochemical producer? On the 6 naphtha crackers compound, 400 smokestacks belch day and night. The fume is carried by the south wind across the river to Zhanghua's Taisi village in the summer, and in winter by the north wind to Yuenlin's Taisi Township. I remember the folks in my home county, Yuenlin, including my own family, welcomed and celebrated the Formosa Plastic Mailiao Complex. They believed that it would bring prosperity and development to the poorest county on this island. 20 years later, some of the villages are littered with empty houses, with abandoned courtyards overrun with weeds, the inhabitants taken by cancer, their children gone elsewhere. The houses that are not empty are inhabited by only solitary elders who lost their spouses to terminal illness. Today, there's not enough time to delve into the complexity in the ways the corporation perpetually alter the communities and their interrelation thereof. But I will provide a little bit background of this establishment. The institutional, technological, and industrial DNA of Taiwan's petrochemical industry was American. In the U.S. Cold War aid regime, the U.S. wanted Taiwan, Japan, and South Korea to develop petrochemicals, both to strengthen anti-communist allies and to relocate polluting industry out of the U.S. When U.S. aid formally ended in 1965, by then the petrochemical industry was already structured around U.S. capital, equipment, and export markets. By the 1980s, Taiwan faced an internal crossroad: either move toward high-value petrochemical or continue expanding basic crackers. Political shift allowed expansionists to push ahead, leading eventually to open a border for private investment. Formosa Plastic, funded with US aid loans in 1954 to provide PVC using actinent, had grown into a petrochemical giant. In the mid-1980s, the government liberalized the petrochemical sector, allowing private firms to build crackers. Formosa Plastic seized this opportunity and built the sixth naphtha cracker in Mailiao, Yunlin, Taiwan's largest single industrial complex. Although US aid was long gone, the sixth cracker was the historical outgrowth of the US Cold War aid regime, which shaped Taiwan's petrochemical trajectory. While US firms continue to be stakeholder and partner in downstream market. What if the folks in Yunlin had been able to reject the sixth naphtha cracker 20 years ago, the way people in Yilan County did? I don't know if we are able to share the video, but I was planning to show you a snippet of video documentation of the play South Wind Theater of Testimony, staged and performed by the Taixi villager in Zhanghua. Are we still able to, or I should wrap up here?
Well, Honkai, and Honkai, can you hear me?
Yes, now I can.
Okay, if you could just, we won't be able to share the video. If you can just, any final context you might want to share about it. I think that's what we have to do for now, and figure out ways that we can stay in communication so that folks get access to the video later.
No, I think that's the end of my talk.
Got you. Well, I thank you so much for getting us started, Honkai. That you lay out are really like it's and environmental exploitation is something that we in Chester know very well. We're currently in a struggle, multiple fronts of struggle against environmental exploitation today. And we're going to talk more about that. But before we get into the specifics of that, I also want to invite Junping to share a bit about his research and another thread that we're connecting in this overall project.
Okay, thank you, Chris. So I don't have a formal presentation, so I just quickly talk through like the thinking that I've been having and basically explain a little bit why I'm here, right? So as I mentioned, I literature at SUNY Binghamton, but I never teach books. I teach sound and sound cultures. And the larger question that I've been thinking about is how sound is shaping the ways in which we experience space, right? Because I'm interested in questions about borders, migration, diaspora, indigeneity, big topics, right? But those are essentially different ways of articulating our relationship to space. And I do think sound has played a very important role in creating our experience of that space, right? So I think there's a certain intimacy that sound is able to create. So one of the things that I've been teaching in my class is to really try to convince my students that sound is a very important form, but it's also a very underprivileged form of knowledge, right? So I really want to go back to the idea why indigenous culture is important, but because a lot of times it was not documented, it was often dismissed, right? I was a lot of times using the example, especially in Canada, a lot of land claim trials where the indigenous people were trying to bring their oral history, their oral traditions, their own lived experiences to the court, right? They were trying to perform their songs, their oral rituals in the court, but the court does not recognize that as a legitimate form of knowledge, right? They're basically saying that don't perform your song, get everything right down so we can read. So that's something that I'm trying to resist and trying to invite all of us why it's important to tell stories, to tell your own stories using sound, thinking through sound, right? And making knowledge through sound and through your own stories. So going back to why Huang Kai and I are here is because we do believe that there's a lot of stories about Afro-Asian connections that can be told through sound. In my previous research, I spent a lot of time trying to document, for example, a tiny bit of history in the early development of reggae music, for example. There's a lot of Chinese Jamaican communities contributing the development of reggae. You have people like Leslie Combe, who actually produced Bob Marley's very first recordings, right? And there are a lot of other Chinese Jamaican people who contributed to the popularity of reggae. So there are a lot of examples like this where we can show that there's certain acoustic intimacy that is created that bring different peoples and culture together in very unexpected places, right? So I got to know Hong Kai's work also because I was beginning to see there's more specific connections between Taiwan and the Caribbean in particular, right? I got to know Hong Kai's work many years ago when she was very interested in this documenting the sounds of the sugar plantations in Taiwan. She was interested in a piece of lost history where there's like protest songs that were used in Taiwan's labor uprising when Taiwan was a southern colony, basically plantation colony. But that part of history is not so much talked about, and because of very complicated historical reasons, because Taiwan is never officially, because of Cold War, never officially aligned with the global South. So that part of history, anti-colonial history, Taiwan as a southern colony was never really talked about. But that history was very important, right? So throughout our conversation, throughout the years, I'm beginning to find more and more cases where sound and music are bringing communities in Taiwan, as another example, right? The indigenous people in Taiwan are, again, also trying to use their oral traditions, their music to tell their stories and use that as a part of the evidence of their, right to the land. And there's so many more examples where sound, music, and oral traditions are being part of this larger stories to articulate, our shared experiences, our shared historical experiences, and also lived experiences, right? So that's where we've been And moving forward, after learning a little bit history about Chester, we're beginning to find if there are more avenues where we can see this sort of like parallel between our different communities. And one of the ways, as we've just mentioned, is the environmental histories, the environmental struggles that both communities may be facing, right? So I'm gonna stop here because we do want to hear from you, right? Your stories about your stories about living in Chester, your stories about how does it feel, what you hear, how you feel, like the air you breathe, and the places you see, you visit, uh, what's your story, and what does it sound like, right? Basically, I will leave it there.
Thank you, Juneteenth. And as you sort of motion and invite us into those stories, opportunity right now to share two Chester stories. One, I'm going to begin with DJ Naj B to share about his grounding and his relationship in Chester, his relationship to music, and his in the city. And then we're going to invite Dr. Nolan Fontaine to return to talk about some of the environmental justice work that's been going on in the city. I want to begin by placing the mic with my brother D.
All right. So to open, good evening. Good evening. Good evening. DJ Naj here. So as the DJ implies, I'm here to talk about the sound of Chester and my personal experience of growing up here and what I hear today. I have a quote to help me kind of shape my thought. Napoleon Hill, the author of Think and Grow Rich, wrote that every home, every place of business, every town and village, every street and community center has its own definite, discernible rhythm. And growing up here in Chester, there's layers to sound. One is the sound, of course, music, the music that I heard growing up, and then the other sound, which is conversation and not conversation, surprisingly, what you don't hear, but what is felt in silence, because that's also a sound. Nothing is still. Everything is in motion, always. So, I grew up in sound, and as a child, long before I wanted to be a DJ or anything musical, my first drum machines were funded by Chester Upland School District. The tables in class, that was my instrument, and my mnemonic device. That's how I think. Sometimes I have to make noise to kind of get through my thoughts. Sometimes it's not always clear. It's not always articulation. It is noise, whatever that sounds like. Chester is a very, very, very unique place because we are an industrial town. We have an industrial history, a robust industrial history, but I feel like we've graduated or demoted to like consumer, and where we consume a lot currently, rather than export. And in music, that all my musical influences kind of came from outside. I know we have some large musical lineage here in the city of Chester. A lot of jazz roots, a lot of R&B roots and gospel roots, rap roots. I'm a part of the rap culture, I like to think, today. But I just always listening is why I'm even able to sit here listen, just listening and understanding sound and what that means in relation to survival here, having to understand things that aren't said, while trying to discern what you see in front of you. um, the music um, in the realm in the arena where I grew up. Um, we having a block party today. Shout out to that. Shout out to the block party. If you're familiar with any kind of music making, we have BPM, beats per minute, right? And a lot of the music that we tend to like is in the like when it's time to party. At least I'd say a lot of our music that we like is kind of like in the 90 to like 111 BPM. I say it's pretty quick. If you don't want to be sorry, halftime slows music down, but 90s BPM is technically pretty fast. Pretty fast music. New Orleans bounce is like 100 BPM, 104, 100, and we like that. And for a while I couldn't understand like why. It's the 808, the feeling, even the vulgarity, some of the explicit lyrics, but the ability to kind of say what you feel in the moment without being judged. That's what drew me to be in this culture here in the city of Chester. Just I can bond with my peers. That was my connection to my peers. Music. If you want to drop a freestyle, I might do the beat for you. And then that graduated into me becoming a DJ and even a producer to some. But the sound, it's taught me a lot. Listening here and this discussion, this panel, without being long with it taught me new ways to look at something I've been experiencing my entire life. Why? Just why? Just asking yourself a question. Why? A lot of us live in automation today. We get up and we do things, habits, that are just loops. We live in loops. And if you don't have a pause to be able to assess that, then you kind of just you living in a constant dance, you know. Yes. We all familiar with burnout in here, right? Yeah, that comes from not having a pause, just from constantly living the dance, singing this song and never like, oh, what's going on? Because some of us, we might need to stop singing this song and get to another one. But we love this one so much, man. I don't know how much time I have left, but being a DJ and sit up here again on this panel, my final thoughts is just really just taught me to listen and ask a better question of what exactly am I listening to and how is it affecting me.
Word. Thank you so much, Naj, and I really love that challenge. Like, we live in loops, and as you know, there's a saying that like, history repeats. And look at what we're going through as a nation right now. What cycle are we repeating? We live in loop. So I want to invite Dr. Nolan Fontaine to come up, who's also going to share his own Chester story, right? And particularly give a focus to environmental justice organizing and campaign work that's happening right now. I can move over. You can take this seat. You want to do that? All right. Go ahead. You got it. Yeah, get in there. So I'm going to pass the mic to Dr. Fontaine.
Good to see everybody again. So I took a lot of notes as I was listening to everybody, and I gleaned what mostly everybody said up here. So when I think about Hung Kai in terms of the piece where she talked about environmental refugees, right? It made me think about the work that Circle, who's been around since 1992, 33 years of environmental justice movement in Chester, headed by Ms. Elaine Mayfield. It reminded me about one of our members who is in her late 80s and who specifically said that she was going to stay. She lived about a block away from Covanta Reworld, trash incinerator, and this year we found out that after 50 plus years of living in Chester, she had to move. So now, thinking about what Hankai said about environmental refugees, right? It made me think about this notion of environmental internal displacement, because we can't be refugees in places that we actually thrive, live, and have roots to, right? And that's the American Indian Indigenous lens that I'm looking at it from. When I think about what Juneteenth said in terms of the intimacy that sound can create, I think about our youth group, Choices, who is our environmental youth leadership wing of Circle. Those range from students ages 8 to 18, and they have been working with a homegrown Chester artist, environmental justice rapper, Sean Gilbert. He likes to go by Wooda, that's his rap name. And he created the Mother Chester video along with him and his colleague, videographer, Jamal of all trades. His name is Biz. They have been working with our Choices students to develop a drill rap style music video in front of the Ops territory at Covanta Reworld. And the interesting thing about that, when we talk about the intimacy that sound can create, is we have students from all over Chester, west side and east side. Now, if you from 19013, I'm from the project, certain areas of the city can be territorial. So just to be able to garner more than 10 students and have them in a specific place learning about environmental justice and committed to it, that just reminded me of what you talked about, the intimacy that sound can create, right? And then Naj, you took me back when you talked about the desk. I've used those cafeteria desks and also the desk in Mr. Grimaldi's class a myriad of times at Chester High to make beats. So it really made me consider how we make do with the best we have, and here in Chester, how we turn orange into gold, right? And it also made me think about what we do in Circle in terms of making do with what we have. One thing that Ms. Elaine says, we want to continue the environmental justice movement here in the city, whether we got $10,000 or whether we have $10. And I just really appreciate Circle and Choices for really embracing Urban Indian Heritage Society. They were the first ones here in the city that incorporated us into, having a land acknowledgement, as well as the city. I see you, Mayor Roots. Appreciate you. I see you, Ms. Roots. And, we just appreciate folks in terms of embracing what the American Indian lens looks like in Chester, because I really think that's going to help us, navigate what next steps are in terms of resistance.
Give a shout out. And Dr. Fontaine mentioned, I know we got some people who might not be from Chester in the building, Covanta Reworld. Reworld is the new brand of Covanta, the nation's largest incinerator, which is on our west end. They, would probably say we don't break EPA regulations. That's what they would say. But in terms of the pollution that is placed into our air, the health impacts of our community, we talking about 2 to 3 times the national average, right? Asthma, cancer rates, right? Mrs. Elaine right now is leading the campaign to talk about Chester as a cancer alley of the North. There's a campaign in New Orleans that's looking at the industry and its impact on cancer rates. And Mrs. Uline believes and is forwarding us to think more deeply about what the industry and Chester's relationship to cancer, right? We know that Covanta, I think I learned, about $5 million a year makes it into the city of Chester, and it helps with our city services. But how toxic is those money in terms of the conditions that we face as a people? And what does it mean to refuse, right, to continue to work with that? And how do we go on as a city? These are real practical questions that we're asking ourselves and thinking about what we can do as a city that is in receivership, that is on the threat of bankruptcy because of America's abandonment of our communities. This is what we're navigating in this moment. So part of what we're here to do, right, we got a lot of things that we've been talking about, but the reason why we wanted to do this event is to hear from folks about their experience. Talking about music, talking about sound, talking about noise in the city, right? How does the music that you grew up in serve as an opportunity for us to come together? How has it gathered us, right? How has it been able to bring together our communities? And also, like, how do we learn to, like, listen to one another, right? How do we hear the sound of what community means? What are the songs and the music that brings us together? So we could keep going, but I really want to invite more voices into this conversation while you are here to sort of talk about that. What has been your experience with music in this city? How has it been an impetus for you to meet other people, to come together? I'm talking about dollar parties I went to in the squares when I was like in 6th grade. You know what I mean? Like, I'm from Sun Hill, and we would go. So you learn through neighborhoods, right? When they was playing Whistle While You Twerk. No, I'm talking about Yin Yang Twins. I'm talking about Mr. College Park, the original. Yes, these things brought us together. So I want to have a conversation with you all about music. Yes, the backdrop is environment, right? The backdrop is that we are all navigating these sort of toxic conditions and toxic infrastructures. But the music can be a force that brings us together, and possibly can music be a force that allows us to overcome those toxic conditions. So I just want to hear from y'all about what's your experience with music in the city? Anybody, and I'll bring the mic to you.
All right. So my name is Andrew Nelson. I grew up in Chester, lifelong Chester resident. So I want to talk about. Well, first let me start with a quote like my brother Nas B did, a relevant quote. So Nikola Tesla said that if you want to understand the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Right. So the frequency and vibration is very relevant to the conversation we're having today. So memories from my childhood. So I grew up on 2nd Street. First on 2nd and Broomall, and then on 2nd and Franklin, right? So the combination for both of those, I had trucks riding past my house, my childhood homes growing up. I used to make beats with those trucks. They would ride by. Sometimes it would make like choo-choo, right? You know, the streets was broken. They was destroyed, right? 2nd Street, back in the day before it was 291, it wasn't smooth. 291 real smooth. You could do. They shouldn't do it, but people do a lot of high speeds down 291. But when I was growing up, you wasn't driving down 2nd Street at that speed, right? It would humble your car really fast. So those trucks, when they went by, they would make
And it's so different these days. Like barbershops are places of conversation. Again, I wasn't hearing music as a young person. I wasn't going to school in Chester, but James Brown, The Temptations, and all that soul and R&B, when the songs came on, the whole barbershop was singing along. Fast forward to now, when I think of sound, and sound specifically, Chester is so rich with sounds. So we live on 9th Street. 9th Street, other than 291, is the only street that goes through the city without interruption. I can tell you the difference between a siren from a police car, an ambulance, and a fire truck. As the mayor, I gotta, stay on cue. I know when it's just a call to the police or something really serious going on because they go right by the house. I hear that. I had that little indentation in the street, and the trucks would just hit it, and the trailers, especially if they had nothing in them, oh, it would just drive us crazy, right? Chester has airplanes that fly over all the time. We're right in the flight path. The house I grew up in, I could tell if the pilot was off a little to the left or to the right because they came over every 35 seconds, 35 to 50 seconds during peak times of the day. After a while, you don't even hear it. We were right near the Amtrak line. The trains are rolling. There was a freight train that went across 7th Street and up to the Bennett homes. You heard them. And people, the sounds of people is just phenomenal. She gets triggered when somebody's hollering and screaming just walking down the street. She gets up, she looks out the window because she cares about people so much. I'm amused by people and what they're saying. So I'm like, sit down, lady. And as I'm laughing through the whole thing. And then there's industry. Like Chester, it was mentioned earlier. It's a city of industry. So you can just get down to the waterfront, especially years ago. You'd hear the foghorns as the boats go up and down. You hear things churning. You hear things blowing. And when we talk about Covanta Reworld, they have this vent. They have 4 vents. They have four to 6 vents. I think there's six ovens. And when they're not selling the steam, when they're not selling electricity, they have excess steam. So they have to vent it somewhere. And it goes straight out of a pipe, which is louder than a runway if you're at an airport. But fortunately, nobody lives right next door. I used to work right next door. We couldn't have conversations because that sound was so loud. I've been on their butts so much, they're putting mufflers on them now. But that noise pollution was something that people just tolerated because they didn't know where it came from. And even people in City Hall was like, no, it's not them. No, it is them, because I hear it every day. How does noise bring us together? I admire the generation that grew up in rap. I hated disco. So there's R&B, there's disco, which I hated. And my first year of college, here comes Sugar Hill Gang. Like, the rap era has begun. I was too busy to really get into it, so jazz became my thing, but I can't say I'm locked into rap. Sometimes I can't pick up the cadence. Sometimes I don't understand the slang. But the beat, I love the beat. I'm into the beat. There's not a bad beat. There's never a bad beat, okay? I'm in a play right now, and they told me, here's your lyrics. You have to sing, and it's not a lot, but I have to go to somebody to give me that beat, right? Because I can't sing words. I just need to hear the beat, and then I can contribute. But since I have the mic, I'm going to say the connection between me and Chris is real. I met him as a senior in high school. He was a senior in high school. I was that guy. I'm not a journalist, but I'm all about that journalism. I was that guy, but I was writing. I wasn't doing video. I came to Chester High School to be introduced to the top 10 students. Chris was in there at number 4, I think. He followed me. All right, no matter. That's still got archives if anybody want to see that edition. Okay, y'all want to talk about that? In any case, our relationship became strong because he ended up going to the same college I went to. And there's a large gap between the years, but you know, we've followed each other for the most part. And to see like the intellectual side at this age group manifesting itself in the city of Chester is so exciting to me.
You can't get out of here without talking about Taiwan.
All right, let's talk about Taiwan real quick because that's where I was going next. It's so fat, and that's where the connection piece comes in. It seems like every time we reconnect, even though we're not working together, we're working on the same things together. He was doing and continues to do historic stuff, whether it's the Robeson House or whatever you're doing now. And I'm over here at the Delaware County Historical Society, you know, working with those guys and trying to bring the Chester history here in Delaware County. It was hard, and I can say it was a failure, but I learned a lot from the experience. And then Taiwan. Like, I had an extraordinary opportunity to go to Taiwan, and I was just looking at the people I met because it was so fascinating. But one of them was a professor at, I got to bring it up, what they consider the Harvard of Taiwan in Taipei. It's he was one of the first areas, Leon Gao, G-U-O, if I'm pronouncing it wrong, National Taiwan University. And we sat there and discussed for about an hour children's environmental health research and looked to partner, you know, at that level. It was like talking to Zulene or one of the professors at Widener, the same issues as Hong Kai was talking about, were the things that they study, and we had that strong connection. I didn't see much of the pollution side of Taiwan when I was there. I stayed mostly in Taipei, but I did get to see the southern counties. I'm going back again in about 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, and I'm coming back with a sister city relationship. And it's not going to be, you know, just City of Chester with Taipei. It's going to be City of Chester with probably one of the areas very close to what she's talked about, because we want to connect on things that we have in common. So I don't know what I'm going to come back with. It's going to be exciting, I can tell you that, but it's so fascinating to know that we have a Taiwan connection on this level, on my level. It certainly is going to involve education. So if I can sneak one thing out, the Chester School District, the Catholic School, Drexel Newman, and one of the charter schools have all sat down and have agreed to be the first school district, schools in the Chester area are going to be part of a global schools initiative where we're going to be teaching, where what's going to be teaching is also shared in Taiwan, Japan, Singapore, and that other country I can't think of next. But it's a global schools initiative that's coming to a kid near you, right here in the city. That's going to be exciting. It's going to be starting before, right after the school year begins, and there's a whole lot more on this connection in with Taiwan that please, please, please pay attention to it, because it's real.
Thank you. And certainly we planned a whole discussion, technically wise, like we're working through it, but there was some invitations I wanted to make sure was available for the whole room. And I spoke with Jameer a little bit before, right, about this project, right, and our opportunity that we're looking at with doing a block party and with music at the center and DJs at the center as a way to gather community, right? And Jameer has been on this amazing project as a citywide journalist. Well, I do. You got the catchphrase. You can say it when you get there. But I think like the importance of lifting up the stories, right, and how music is a method that carries the stories of the city. One of the things that we're also navigating as we do this project is the relationship between Black and Asian communities. When Naj and I sort of like first started this project and this relationship and the dialogue between us, June Ting, and Hong Kai was like, what's your relationship to the Asian community in Chester? It was like, well, we have, I grew up on number 1 China on Providence Avenue, the Avenue Market, which is Korean owned. Lee's Market was where my mother, who worked at Weatherville Elementary, would get all the hoagies. But this sort of like the goods and services and a transaction. But what is the relationship amongst our communities? And we're around the same sounds, right? We're differently positioned, but what is the opportunity for us to unite, right? But in order for us to unite, we got to be able to talk through the tensions that we experience in the city. So I just wanted to make sure that we got your voice, right, as part of this discussion, because this is like a research in progress. And then I have some questions to offer us. We probably gonna do like a round of final thoughts, and then some questions to offer us. So as we kind of close up out of this forum, we can hang out for a minute, check out the Sunny Ghetto exhibition next door, and continue this discussion more informally. But before we do that, I want to give the mic to Jameer. Then we're going to come back for final thoughts. All right?
So a little bit about what we discussed earlier in regard to the what we was discussing. Right. All right, yeah. So, well, anybody know me? My name's Jameer. And I was talking with Chris earlier in regard because I recently kind of brought up something in regard to like the relationship between the Asian community and the Black community, and I think it's good what y'all doing here because I do see community or camaraderie right now, but I do think honestly there is like an unspoken tension between the Black and Asian community. And when I say that, there has been times where, if anybody familiar with J&S around here, I remember being accustomed to going there to get food, and I think us as a Black community, we accepted, in my opinion, her bad customer service. So when I say that, we would go in there, we were spending our money, and hey, I forgot what her name was, but hey, we'll try to make conversation, and she was just like very rude, And I feel like we took that, and we was just like, well, that's how it is. But I feel as though that we wouldn't accept that from a Black-owned business, And I remember going to some of these different establishments that's, ran by Chinese Asian people, and I kind of realized, like, wait, we're putting a lot of money in their pockets, but they're not even giving anything back to the community that I know of. And I don't want to say all of them. I heard good things about Lee's back in the day, how they would sponsor kids and everything. But most recently, I don't see them really give back to the community, and we're the money that they make for some of them, not all, I don't even see them put the money back into their establishment to make it at least look presentable. So to me, it's like, okay, y'all don't even care about how your establishment look. We're just expected to, take order food out of a place that doesn't look the most cleanliness, So in regard to that, I just feel as though that things can come together better if we are actually having those establishments that's making money in the city of Chester, if they can actually, give back to the community. If they can actually be more personable, because again, I know a lot of the relationship is transactional, and I get it, it's a business, I understand that. And in regard to that, I even got pushback from my own people, but well, they don't have to give back. And it's true, nobody have to do anything, but I feel like if you're making money and you're doing business in the city of Chester, then there should be something that you could do to give back, whether that's a book bag drive, whether that's, coats or free meals. I just feel like that's very important as we try to build with the Asian community. And I can also say from my experience, back in like 2018, 2019, I went to something in Vegas called Chinese Boot Camp. And I was with a market, I was with an MLM company at the time called Market America. And when I went to the Chinese boot camp, what I actually saw in firsthand was that the Asian community, they are very good with keeping their money within their own community. So they'll spend with each other first. They will spend with each other first. They will give each other the resources and everything. So they keep it in their community. Whereas in our community, our money don't go... And again, this is not a broad paintbrush, but our money don't typically go to our community first. We will much probably rather spend with a different community than our own community. Or if we are spending with our own community, we are holding them sometimes to an unfair standard. Everything has to be perfect. And I don't feel like we put that same pressure on, you know, the other communities and everything. So when I went to Chinese boot camp, I actually learned and saw firsthand, like, wow, this is how it can be. Because again, we can, with being black people, we have some of the highest spending power. You know, like a lot of our money make people rich. You know, so we can apply that and do it within our own community. I think that could be good, but. Overall, I just think like in order to get closer with the Asian and black community, we had to discuss that unspoken tension. I feel like, you know, we seen movies like Paid in Full and Hurry Up and Buy. And, you know, originally, honestly, that was a stereotypical tactic to kind of monitor black people shopping in their stores and everything. But then us as black people, we took it and we made it into a joke. You know, we made it funny and everything. So I don't think people really understand that, like where the Hurry Up and Buy really came from. You know, and us, again, we will take things and make it a lighter issue. And I don't disagree with that, but I also think that we really got to have that conversation and really start that conversation and address the unspoken tension, because the longer it remains unspoken, I don't think we're going to get anywhere to resolving it.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And I just want to let for the folks know is up and coming. Follow on Facebook. That's the way that. Well, you also got some interviews coming out on YouTube now. And just if you want to know what's going on in the city of Chester, follow Jameer Caldwell. He gonna let you know. All right. Yeah. So Tom is starting to roll. I want to take the opportunity for folks to share some sort of like wonderings, maybe like a question that's still sitting with you. And we're going to close this part. And with the time that we have left while the block party is still going, we're going to go next door. Naps has, in particular, the In Search of Self, which is on the wall, was made in response to these conversations. So we want to take the people who are here to that exhibit. That one. Yes, the one that Andrew Nelson has right here was made in response to these dialogues. So we're going to go over there after we give some final thoughts and keep this conversation rolling. I want to right now just have an opportunity for anyone to say, what's still sitting with you? And sort of like a quick, concise question. I'll go last. But what are the questions that are on your mind, and what would you want to feed into this project?
I mean, as I was listening to everyone's story, I was just so much struck by the diversity of different sounds that you are able to, you know, talk about. I mean, I'm definitely a very big fan of music, but I'm also very interested in all different types of non-musical sound that you are able to talk about, the trucks, the industrial sound, the vents, and so on and so forth, and being able to differentiate different types of sirens. I think those are, for me, the evidence that you know the space, the location, the place, the community so well that it created what I think it would be a very powerful intimacy, and you are able to use that in as part of your expression, like of this place, right? Talking about the rhythm, the force that you're able to pick up from the trucks, you know, passing by and so on and so forth. So I think there's a lot of things that we can, you know, use that seemingly to be noise, but could be part of our expression of how we understand this place, even articulate the tensions between different communities. So really looking forward to continuing this conversation about sounds. So that's my final take, I guess.
Okay, so in closing, I just want to address a couple of things. So first, I'm gonna start with Jameer. I want to be, I want to counter offer, not cape, but JNS. If anybody's familiar, it's a late night eatery. They're open pretty late, like 3 a.m., 4 a.m. after we leave from after indulging. So we in there like, yo, let me get number 6, let me get number 7, hurry up, catch up, all that kind of stuff like that. So it might get a little tense in there. So shout out to JNS and all these people in here for hanging out and hanging in there with us first. All right, so but secondly, I also grew up on 291, second and Trainer Street, which is in the heart, I would say, of the industrial goings on in Chester or whatever like that. But I have a favorite noise too. My favorite noise is like, if anybody hears it at night, you probably hear it. It has to be like 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. But it sounds like a dispatch, like a walkie-talkie. You just hear it just go in the middle of the night. That is my favorite because nobody's outside if you hear that, because that's like the only time you can hear that. And there's I want to add some lore too to Sunny Ghetto. There's a piece that Naps worked on that didn't quite make it in this collection, but there's a piece where the kids are kind of in a playground, an inspired playground, but they're swinging on like monkey bars or would be monkey bars, but it's like industrial stuff. And I actually played down there. Like that was our playground, seriously, on 291. Like the train tracks and going in the cabs and taking the flares and stuff. Yeah, taking the flares out of the cabs. Yes, you know what I'm saying? Because they would mostly be unlocked. So it was a good time too in toxicity, if you will say. So I would say like look at your intimacy, your chemical intimacy, because we like some of these chemicals too. I'm pass off.
I want to go back to the piece around, we talked about it the other day. How do we speak to all these histories and epistemologies of Afro-Asian solidarity while on indigenous American Indian land? So I think about that and how we exemplify that in Circle. So some of the work that I do with Urban Indian Heritage Society is around genealogy. And the reason why I bring that up is two of our core members on our team, Erica Berman and Sandra Showell Hart, if you're from the area and you know Berman's Pharmacy, Erica is a part of that family. Genealogy matters. If you know Showell's right down here on Welsh Street, one of my favorite spots in the city, next to the spot on 3rd and Central. Exactly. Sandra was the lady that used to work there, the daughter of the Showell founder, the owner of the store. So when I think about how integrated that we become around the notion of environmental justice and understand that, hey, this isn't just affecting us that live in the city, it's affecting us as, business owners, where does all that grease from the 4 chicken wings and everything go? Do we have these conversations and everything when we go into Showells, or when we go into Number One China, or when we go into Happy House, or when we go into Chang James? I don't know. I know one way that I be in that, sometimes I'm a politics guy, so sometimes I go down to, we call it the Club Chinese store, but even though, I know Miss Julian, know my Korean, I go in there and I say, hey, what you think about President Moon? That's the South Korean president, or at the time he was, before he got impeached. But, just having conversations about that, just to see how folks view the world, and to see the expression on their face afterwards, like, what you know about that? And just developing rapport. Now, when I order food down 3rd and Central, and I'm not there in 10 minutes, Miss Jolie calling me like, boy, where you at? Your food getting cold. And it's those types of endearing moments that I can appreciate, because over the years we have built rapport. We have asked, and sometimes I think it's also about us asking, like, hey, we're having a community barbecue. Can y'all donate anything? We'll take rolls, ice, A&W root beer, whatever you're not using. So I think sometimes it takes for us having to extend a hand, just to make sure it's not a closed fist, right? Another thing that I thought about is intergenerational leadership. Another thing that I think is being modeled in Circle. Whether we looking at, Miss Poochie was just here. Miss Poochie third event that we done been to this week. Miss Poochie's one of our elders in Circle. And to see that level of commitment and to see our students the choices to be able to engage with her, to ask about what Chester was yesteryear, and to have those same questions with Mrs. Lean, impeccable. Then Chris, I thought about how you started us off. Sound organizing and organizing sound. So that's something I've been thinking about all week. And then the other thing I've been thinking about is when you asked me, when we talked earlier this week and I was putting out all those flyers and everything, what's the call to action right now? And then in my notes, I put name those things. So I'm gonna ask y'all to get out your phones and time me in 30 seconds because I'm gonna name all 18 of those things. Tell me when y'all ready. 18 things in 30 seconds. Let me know. Go. Close the incinerator. Renegotiated community benefits package that allows filters on the incinerator and move-out fees. Continue to raise awareness to residents through Circle. Revoke, revamp solid waste permit. A community trust fund. Medical treatment stockpile with nebulizers, inhalers, etc. Air filters to all residents. An ethics policy for city council. Stormwater authority restitution, pollution reduction, increased controls. We want to know the best practices. Hire our old life cycle analysis consultants, waste consultants, diverted truck routes and compliance with routes, odor and noise reduction. The last thing I was going to say is muffling noise made, but thanks, Mayor Root, you already made that happen.
Thank you, and we definitely want to write that out and type that up and put it online. So I'm excited to take these things and make some more visualizations of it so we can get more people involved in it, Hong Kai, can you hear us now?
Yes, I can.
Awesome. So I want to offer you an opportunity for sort of like a final closing thoughts from what you were able to hear. Is there things that, or questions or things that you're still sitting with from the conversation?
Okay, I'm actually missing quite a lot of the conversation.
Understandable, I know.
Yeah. But because I'm not present in Chester, and so what I can glean from my listening is actually already very inspiring and informative. And what the mayor of Chester said resonates so much with all of these demands and requests the villagers in my home county has made to both the government and to the private petrochemical corporation. So I guess I'm not able to provide any final thoughts, but I think I started to think, like if we were to contemplate together what the condition should be near could mean, especially in this project. And I think I would like to go back to my hometown and talk to my junior high schoolmates. I talk to her former neighbors, friends, family who used to also live in Kaixi Mailiao. Because I would like to know how they are still carrying through every day, and how they're surviving, and how they're reflecting. And I think the condition of being here is there. We are not creating it. So I think it's important for us to think about how we can summon or conjure more of the interconnecting, to make this connection, to make this nearness visible and audible. And I think this I would like to offer as like a thinking process for all of us, to reveal this condition of being near, and to reveal this interconnectedness through sounds, listening, and maybe even through other modes of knowing and relating.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you so much for your grace and patience as we figured out the tech to be able to do this. You know, and as we kind of begin to land the plane here, just I think for me, with this project, the Chester Gifted Program, it has seeds from that we did years ago. Myself, DJ Najee, and Rebel Foster. And we came together. You know, I'm in Philadelphia now, and Rebel Foster is certainly, I think, one of the best DJs in Philadelphia. And we have this momentum in terms of our creativity, and we're trying to build platforms, right? That is us advancing in our creative work, but also the principle that we learned in Chester, you know, something Mr. Ham taught me about, lifting as we climb. Making sure that when we go somewhere, we bring other people with us. So the Gifted Program, right, is, yes, it's a play on the Chester's actual Gifted Program, which was in me and I's capacity, led by Miss Sheets at Chester High School. It was a space, a room that had maybe about 4 or 5 computers, an open room that you could go to, and you were, as Andrew mentioned, in control of structuring your own learning. You got a space to figure out what is the thing that you want to think about today? What is the thing that you want to create and see in the world? What Chester Gifted Program is attempting to do is democratize that. We're creating a platform to say, what are the dreams that we have, and how can we come together, just as this block party exists, and come together as a squad and make sure that we are bringing those ideas into realities, right? And through that sort of like dance, through that listening to one another, we find ways to talk about our interconnectedness, not just here in the city, but with communities across the world. So as we kind of come to a sort of like close here, what I'm thinking about is how do we continue to get specific about listening to ourselves, listening to the sounds and the people around us, figuring out what is a sort of opportunity for us to connect, and then getting to spread that, right? And to that end, we had a quote from Aurora Levins Morales, right? A piece that she wrote called A Braided Prayer. And it was our way of like settling, a poem to help kind of ground this discussion. And it goes like this. We are the people of the tipping point, where the river meets the sea, where the rubber meets the road, where we could all die of habit while everything spins away, where life and death have we set before us, and every single inhaled breath says, choose life, and every exhale grips tight to the usual and says, not yet. So what if we braid our prayers into the one word, listen, and as we listen, bending toward the earth, waves of listening move outward like rings on water. What if people everywhere stop in their tracks and feel deep into the sound waves of the living world, and we see how the harm in our mind bodies echoes the harm in the world? Sludge caking the Vina Cava and the Yazoo, the feverish imbalance, the immunity vanishing, cities and cells growing out of control, the cravings, the chemical cravings that devour us. What if the beauty of the world takes our breath and restores it? And we see with our inner eye of the heart how precious, how brief, how easily broken. We follow each drop of water that circles the globe, in and out of rivers, in and out of lungs, in and out of bloodstreams. Toda la sangre formando un río, and making us one. Those are the words of Aurora Levins Morales. It is something that we still sit with and think with, right? Braided prayers, thinking of what the people of Taiwan and the people of Yunlin County are praying for. What are the people of Chester praying for? How can we come together to answer those prayers? I'm so grateful for all you all who have been here. I got to make 2 announcements. The first announcement is that we're continuing this dialogue in Philadelphia with the Public Trust, which is right at 40th and Walnut, usually called the Slout Foundation. We'll have a second conversation November 20th And it will continue this dialogue, taking all the notes that we've had from today, some more discussion among us as a group, and continuing this process as we think about making something in 2026 that will be featured as the Institute of Contemporary Art in Philadelphia as part of an exhibition. We want that to be multiple voices, right? We want many voices to be part of that sort of exhibition and assemblage that we're putting together. And that's what this is about. So that's one announcement. The second announcement is that this is not complete without going to see the Sunny Ghetto series. We had some questions that we wanted to see into the room, but we want you to think about these questions as we look at the art. I believe the Afro-Asian joint might still be serving, so you can get a non-alcoholic drink or alcoholic drink from them and meet us in the art gallery where we'll learn from Naps about how he's processing this and how he's bringing the music, the sound of the city into his visual art. And with that being said, I want to say thank you to the ICA. I want to say thank you to the Cat Center. I want to say thank you to Sam, our tech person who helped set up everything for today. Thank you all for coming. The party, I think we're on like a loose, it's not like a hard start, but we're going to start kind of moving stuff around. Hang out. Thank you. And just appreciate you all for coming and learning about what this project entails. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you all.
Thank you, Honkai. Thank you.
Thank you.
Making your way through the struggle of this.
Thanks, everybody.
Yes.